Let's move on. We want to get to this story. It's been a big story, a big talker here in our area. I want to say for the better part of a week, but actually longer than that. In the latest updates, I'm talking about CATS, and I'm talking about Charlotte's transit system. The latest coming this week was Charlotte City Council approving about $3.4 million on a marketing contract to sort of rebuild the public image of Charlotte area transit system, also known as CATS. Julie Kay is here in studio. You saw her earlier. Julie, you've been following this story, and we've gotten responses from everywhere regarding this. What are you hearing?
So this is something that kind of blew up after Monday night's meeting where this was approved. So it's $3.4 million, as you mentioned, for a PR campaign related to CATS. Now, I was there at the meeting and I had the agenda with me. It doesn't really go into detail about what that looks like in the agenda, but this is one of many multi-year contracts related to CATS operating budget that was approved in their consent agenda, which for those of you who don't go to every city council meeting, that just means that they had previously talked about it and they approved it kind of in one big motion. The only discussion that was had about it in that case was about how this is going to become the business of the MPTA.
Yeah.
So City Council's approving this, but really the people that's going to handle this operating budget and this campaign is going to be this newly approved transit authority that is mostly set up. We're still waiting for a couple more appointments from some of the townships, also from the governor, of people that are going to be in charge of how we spend our money in relation to public transit, especially after the sales tax increase was passed. So this is going to be a continuing discussion, and we don't know what this PR campaign is going to look like yet. But naturally, the response came pretty quickly from the GOP. And I know that we had them on Live Impact News yesterday, the Mecklenburg County GOP chair, Kyle Kirby. He and I had chatted about this as well, extensively about what we do now after another stabbing on the light rail. His big message here in general across the board is we've got to change this. We need to close off the platforms. Right now you can just walk right on, hypothetically, without getting your ticket checked. There's nothing stopping you, no barrier between the light rail station and the road in a lot of cases. He also says you need an officer on every single train. This is something that CAT CEO or interim CEO Brent Cagle has said repeatedly is not feasible. I've spoken with council members who say the same thing. As nice as that sounds, that costs a lot more than a couple $1 million. Something I do want to point out is we're talking about how much money this is. I am not going to sit here and say $3.4 million is not a lot of money.
Right.
It is. Something that we have to keep in mind is that the operating budgets for anything related to the city is a lot more than you and I are used to hearing about.
Right.
So this was one of multiple CATS operating budget related things approved. Other things like, for drainage services and for just like maintenance, things like that are pretty typical, where they spent even more money. So I do want to point out that this wasn't the biggest ticket item on there, but I do think timing wise for especially the GOP and Republican leaders saying, any extra money we have needs to go towards safety. Even if that doesn't cover all of it, that needs to go in that bucket.
Especially when you hear, and what they're saying, this is not what I'm saying, what they're saying, especially when you hear the sheriff, Mecklenburg County Sheriff, other city leaders saying, we don't have the resources, we don't have the money. I do want to read, because they reposted that interview that we did yesterday. This is what, you may have gotten this response, but Mecklenburg County Republican Party reposting our interview on Facebook, and in the caption wrote, we need more police on every train and barriers at every station, not a $3.4 million PR campaign to paper over rising light rail violence. Public safety comes from real security, not spent. Exactly what you said there, but interesting, again, this is what they're saying. I mean, it's caused a lot of
discourse.
Yeah, a lot of discourse.
So yesterday, actually, I was talking to Councilmember DeBoer Mira about just this in general, because it's, and to say that they're brushing over it, regardless of what you think about this PR campaign, I do want to point out that they are pushing for answers. The mayor has asked for an update from CATS on their security improvements that they put in place in October. We are hoping to get that this week. Dimple Ajmira, in the meeting, even at the end of it, where council members have time to ask about whatever they want, brought up some things. But, why was this suspect allowed back onto the train despite being banned? How are we checking to see who's banned? So these are questions that council members have too. This isn't, Republicans want safety and
Right.
Democrats don't. But when I was talking with Councilmember Ajmira about this, I just kind of asked her, I was like, hey, this is blowing up right now as we speak. I know you haven't had a second to prepare for this, but what are your initial thoughts? And she just, briefly touched on it as this is something the MPTA will be taking over. This is just recently approved last night, so we will see. However, public safety is twofold. It's not just it's the safety and security itself, and it's also the perception of safety and security. When you look at just in general, the chatter about Charlotte as an unsafe city after these two just very disturbing incidences,
Right.
of course. You then come into the question of, will events stop coming here? Will will the city be economically hit by potentially conventions, sporting events,
Right.
people just not wanting to come to Charlotte? Now, I did reach out to the Charlotte Regional Visitors Authority. They aren't available to speak today because they're having a board meeting at the same time. But they have pointed out, this is important that we, let people know we're a safe city, but they did also want to point out, as of this point, we have not had any conventions or anything like that in their venues, which are a lot of the big venues. Nothing has canceled because of safety
Yeah.
concerns. Safety is a general conversation they have with events that are coming here, but they haven't seen that cross that threshold yet. So this is just a very multifaceted issue. It will be interesting to see what this campaign ends up looking like, and I don't think we'll find out until after January when the MPTA is seated. But yeah, definitely two different ways to approach this for sure.
Yeah, I mean, again, you have the political reaction, and you have the everyday, as I call it, everyday folk reaction. People who live here in our community who are they have questions, and as you mentioned, this is a story that will continue to evolve. Yeah. So go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
you're good. I just even the things that Kyle Kirby is asking
Yeah.
for are things that Mayor Lyles told our Ben Thompson yesterday that she's open to exploring, like closing off the platforms, especially we're talking about building the Red Line, which would be a bunch of new platforms. I don't know and she doesn't know if they'll be able to retroactively go back and redo the Blue Line. But these are, as you said, conversations that are ongoing. It is not ending here. I'll be back here.
Yeah. We look forward to it. Julie, when can folks catch your story this evening?
Every show, 4, 5, and 6.
I thought so, but I was like, let me make sure.
Just in case you miss it in the other two.
All right, Julie, thank you for your time. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus.